Hey, welcome to part 4 of Intro to Programming. In this video, I'm going to cover Boolean data types and if statements. So we've covered 3 data types up to this point: strings, integers, and doubles, and now we're going to go over Booleans. A Boolean is anything that evaluates the true or false. It's a true or false statement. And let me print out or write out a quick variable here. So bool, my Boolean equals true. Now, bool is the key word here, and that's short for Boolean, and my Boolean, the variable, and has the value true to it. Or we could put false. So my Boolean is now equal to false. And if I were to print that out to the console, CW tab, my Boolean, you'll see that it prints out the value, which is false. So we can put true or false in here, but we can also put any type of condition in here that evaluates the true or false. And a condition is exactly that. It's something, it compares something, and if, well, let me just write it out here and you'll see. So 5 is less than 10. That's a condition, and that is an evaluation operator. So 5 is less than 10. That equates to true. So it stores true inside of my Boolean, and you can see if I run it, we get the same thing as before, true, or I think I might have had false in there earlier. Anyways, 5 is less than 10, so it stores true inside of my Boolean and then prints that out to the console. And I could I could flip that and put 5 is greater than 10. If I hit F5 and run it, you'll see that it is now equal to false. That's because it evaluates 5 and 10. 5 is not less than 10, so it stores false inside of that variable, and then we print that out to the console. Now, let me show you real quick here. There's two more comparison operators. Comparison operators, that's what they're called, not evaluation operators. I don't know where my brain was. Anyway, here's another comparison operator. We can do less than or equal to 5. So that would give us true because 5 is less than or equal to 5. We could also do 5 is greater than or equal to 5, and that would also evaluate to true because 5 is greater than or equal to 5. So now that you know briefly what a Boolean data type is and how we can use them with variables, let's see how we can use them in conjunction with if statements. And what is an if statement? An if statement is basically a decision point in your program. It's going to, you give it a condition, and if that condition is true, you execute this block of code. If it's not, then you execute this block of code. And let's see how we can use that. So if let me print out or write out a couple variables real quick so we can use them in this example. So int num1 equals 5, int num2 equals 10. And then we can say if keyword parentheses, and here's where we put our condition. Anything inside of here is going to evaluate to true or false. So if num1 is less than num2, this is basically the same thing we just did before in the variable, right? Well, now we're just using it with an if statement. Code block, and anything inside of this code block right here is associated with this if statement right above it. It evaluates this, and if it's true, it executes any block of code that's inside of this code block. So console.writeLine cw tab num1 is less than num2, and then yeah, and then let me go ahead and run it. F5. Num1 is less than num2. So it evaluated this right here and said, okay, num1 is less than num2. That's true, so go ahead and execute the block of code right underneath it. And now what if I were to say num1 is greater than num2? You can see that it just didn't print anything to the console. That's because this evaluated to false, so it skips over this block of code and then continues the program down here. And we didn't have anything else, so it didn't continue. So I can do, I can say program end here just so you can see that it does in fact skip the block of code and then continue to execute the rest of the program. So yeah, you can see that it skips this block of code right here, and then we go ahead and continue the program right below it. So console.writeLine program end. Okay, so now let's look at an else statement. An else statement is basically saying if this condition right here is true, so go ahead and execute that. If it's not, go ahead and execute something else. Else statement. So else code block, you don't need a condition here. That's because it's just going to be the inverse of this up here. So if this is not true, then go ahead and execute this. So we could say console.writeLine num1 is greater than num2. So if I go ahead and run that, you can see that we get num1 is greater than num2, and then program ends. So we got to here. The compiler says, okay, is num1 greater than num2? Is 5 greater than 10? No, it's not. Skip this block of code and execute this. So it's not checking anything else at this point. There's no other condition to check. It just catches whatever this, the inverse of this. So yeah, it's pretty easy, honestly. There's not much more to it than that. And we're going to cover, so that's it for this video, but in the next video, we're going to dive more into if statements, and we're going to cover what an else if statement is. It's just another addition to this, to where you can do more comparisons than just two, because right here, this is just two comparisons, right? You're doing this comparison and you're doing this. Well, that's not a comparison, but anyways, I'm rambling. But yeah, so next video, we're going to cover what an else if statement, and then the and or operators inside of if statements. So yeah, I'll see you guys over there.